It hasn't learned. Come on. Learn, goddammit.
Strange game. The only winning move is not to play.
If you haven't noticed recently, women seem to be missing the whole gene in their body that makes them take accountability for their bad actions. Women don't realize that in all these articles and all the news stories and all the media posts that go out there, everybody kind of realizes women have gone nuts. They've gone off the reservation. They've gone crazy. And it's men that are the sane ones that are the most rational because women have just destroyed their own credibility. This comes from the Daily Mail. Even at 50, my husband is gorgeous, but I'm still cheating on him with an ugly man anyway. And of course, my thumbnail accurately points out, I believe at least, there are 0 ways for men to win anymore. The good-looking guy dates down, he's bad. A good-looking woman dates down, well, she's great and smart. A woman walks away, never their fault. So I have several of these stories, and each one highlights how men just are not going to win this. Don't play a game you cannot win. So anyway, my husband's drop dead gorgeous. Why am I still cheating on him with an ugly man? You know, most high-profile male characters have been reduced to passive emasculated slobs that embody unhealthy lifestyles. And in the process, they tacitly encourage everyone to let themselves go instead of keeping mentally and physically fit and healthy, which we all should strive towards. And helping out towards that goal is NMN, that's nicotinamide mononucleotide, a natural supplement which is vital for the functioning of 37 trillion cells in your body and which can help you reduce weight, cholesterol, and even blood pressure in overweight adults, meaning it not only slows down but can functionally reverse aging. The swamp and their allies in Big Pharma know this: a healthy, energized population is harder to control. That's why unelected bureaucrats at the FDA are working overtime to put NMN in the hands of Big Pharma and out of yours. Don't just take my word for it. Here's Professor David Sinclair from the Paul F. Glenn Center for the Biology of Aging at Harvard Medical School talking about it on Joe Rogan.
Talk to someone like you as an actual research scientist of this stuff. I always want to know, what are you doing to yourself?
How long have you got?
Like, what do you do on a daily basis?
What do I do?
First of all, are you 100 years old?
Getting there.
How old are you?
Turning 50. So
You're turning 50?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought you were 50. I would have figured you were for about 41, 42.
I eat healthy. I try to skip meals. I also take supplements. And in fact, most of my colleagues are in the field of aging, or anti-aging as people call it. So I take NMN every morning.
What is NMN?
Good question. So let me take a quick step back.
Sure.
So about 20 years ago, Lenny Guarente and a team of us at MIT discovered a set of genes that controls aging in yeast cells, just brewer's yeast, what you find in beer and bread. And those genes are called sirtuins, and there are 7 of them in our bodies, 5 in yeast. And what they do is they protect all organisms on the planet, plants, bacteria, humans, from deterioration and disease. They're like the Pentagon. They sense when we're hungry, sense when we're exercising, and they send out the troops to defend us. So when you put more of these genes into a yeast cell or a mouse, they'll live longer, between 5 to 20% longer. And so we think that these genes are responsible for the effects of dieting and exercise, which is great. What that means is we can now mimic that with molecules. So NMN is one of those molecules.
NMN works so well that the FDA is moving to take it off supplement shelves. On September 30th, just a couple weeks away, they'll decide whether it stays a supplement or gets reclassified as a drug and taking it out of your hands. With it, you'll run faster, lift heavier, punch harder, and have more excess energy. Why? Because NMN is one of the main precursors of NAD+, which Professor Sinclair also explains more about here.
Get this. So sirtuins need NAD to work. Without them, they don't work. In fact, if you don't have NAD in your body, you'd be dead in about 30 seconds. It's a really important molecule. But as we get older, we lose NAD. So by the time you're 50, like I almost am, you have about half the levels of what you had when you were 20. So that's not good. And these sirtuins, they don't protect the body without high levels of NAD.
In other words, as you get older, in order to stay strong, healthy, and mentally alert, you need to supplement your levels of NMN, the precursor to NAD+. And Black Forest Supplements, the sponsor of this video, can help you out with that. What's more is for the next 48 hours, viewers of this channel can get a whopping buy one, get one free on Labor Day promotion. So get yours now. Link is in the description down below. And now back to me. Now, throughout this whole article, I want you to just think to yourself, she says he's perfect all the way up until she needs to rationalize why she decided to sleep with one of their family friends and how she's going to blame it on the husband. Even at 50, my husband David is one of those enviably handsome alpha males. A banker, six-figure salary, chiseled features, full head of thick brown hair, and a decent body thanks to all the sports he does. At the same time, I am firmly in the Ms. or Mrs. average camp. Round-faced, too large of breasts, saddle thighs, and a tummy that will never ever shrink thanks to an emergency C-section. She says, in other words, I'm punching above my weight, and she knows it. David and I have been married for 25 years, and during that time, I've lost count of the number of friends who've admitted to having a crush on him, not to mention the jokey comments about being careful to keep a tight hold of him, lest he be lured away by a far more attractive woman. As much as I've always hated those barbs, it turns out our cavernous gulf in the looks department has resulted in infidelity. One of us has been having an affair for 5 years, but it's not David who is unfaithful. It's me. And what might come as an even bigger surprise is that I'm cheating on him with a far less attractive man. Andy, a mutual friend of ours from university, has thinning gray hair, a pudgy dad bod, and pale white skin that's never tans. Even with rose-tinted glasses, he could never be considered traditionally handsome. And with a far less impressive salary, he even admits himself that he's more of a beta male. But he's also one of those rare men who really listens when you talk. He doesn't offer unhelpful solutions, glaze over, or play with his phone. Oh, and he's exceptionally good in bed. Okay, so let's pretend you're this, I don't know, sneaky fucker is what we usually call them. That's a guy that's hanging around. He pretends to be everybody's friend. But in truth, he's just trying to get the hot guy's girlfriend, and he does. But let's pretend you're that guy, right? You're pudgy, thinning gray hair, dad bod, you don't tan, and you're considered a beta male, but you're a good listener. The alpha Chad would not worry about that guy. Why would he? He loves his wife. They've had kids together. He's never cheated. He's been a good man to her. Why would she step out with what even she calls an ugly dude? Well, it's because he's not perfect in every way, you see. She says, to move on to the point, though, with Andy, I'm the more attractive one. And as someone who's so used to being compared unfavorably with my husband, this is a welcome novelty. Andy often tells me how attractive he finds me, and there's nothing sexier than being made to feel sexy. So because her husband is the hot one, she can't stand that he gets all the compliments. She can't stand that he's nice to her, but he doesn't lavish over her attractiveness because, to be quite frank, she's not that attractive. So the whole reason for her getting sucked into this other guy's world is because he falls over his feet for her, and she loves the attention. But she must have that to feel better about herself. She said, do I feel guilty about betraying David? Only sometimes. I realize that the fact that it's Andy I'm cheating with makes this a double betrayal. After all, the three of us go back over 30 years. I'd known David in passing since childhood. Our mothers were old friends, and we'd say hello to each other at get-togethers over the years, but it was when we both ended up in the same halls of residence at Edinburgh University that I got to know him properly. He may have been tall with a gorgeous sports-honed figure, but what I loved about him most was his easy optimism and glass-half-full outlook. Of course, I fancied him, but I never for one moment thought he could feel the same way about me. We'd been friends for over 6 months when, after a cinema trip, David invited me back to his room and made a pass at me. So the good-looking guy that had all the opportunities in the world was actually raised right. Now, 30 years ago sounds like a long time ago. It was the 90s. Hookups were pretty easy in the 90s, a lot easier than they are today. I know, I grew up in the 90s. It was a lot easier back then, even for someone that looks like me. But the fact that this guy wasn't a womanizer, he didn't just hook up, he's what every woman says she wants. A traditional man who hasn't been around, he brings good salary, he's tall, good looking, all the things that they scream that they want. And she didn't have to chase after him. He did the right thing. I like a girl. I'm going to date her seriously. We're dating seriously. I'm going to propose to her. We're going to get married. We're going to have kids. We're going to have the house on the hill, the picket fence, and happily ever after. How do you, if you do everything right and you have all the advantages in the world as a man, and it still happens to you. Now, a lot of women will say, oh, but that's just her. Is it though? Is it? Because there's, again, the next stories I'm going to be reading kind of show a trend where women are just at the point they're going to do whatever makes them feel good in the moment, and they'll justify their bad actions later. When news spread of us getting together, our friends gushed about how lucky I was to have snared David. As for Andy, this is the pudgy, ugly guy, he was David's roommate. He was bookish and geeky. Andy had a few short-lived relationships, but was often a bit of a third wheel. She says, David is a tactile man who always made me feel loved. Okay, then what are you complaining about? Well, he didn't lavish over her looks, even though she did nothing to improve them. She said, but he's never told me I'm beautiful. He'll say I look nice or compliment my outfit, but he's far more likely to rave about how clever or funny I am. So if a man just appreciates a woman for her looks, he's shallow. If a man just appreciates a woman for her intellect and her cleverness and she's witty, then he's saying secretly that she's not beautiful. Do you see how you can't win this? Now she must be all the things. Oh, you're clever and beautiful and witty and funny. And oh, you didn't say smart. Do you not think I'm smart? There's no winning this. But this is the rats running around in their head, finding a way to make it his fault. I've always feared that David would wake up and realize he could do better than me. Maybe, but he didn't. He didn't. He did the right thing. Having this fear hanging over me is a horrible feeling. David was a fantastic father. Okay, so far, David, perfect. But I hated how other moms ogled him at the school gates. At book clubs, one glass of rosé too many, some would make vulgar remarks. One woman joked, never invite me to yours when David's at home. It would be like letting the dogs out. You would think all this praise might make David rather arrogant, but it hasn't. If anything, when we're out, he sticks to me like glue. And if a woman is trying to flirt, he's firm with his boundaries. He appreciates an attractive woman when he sees one, but he's never had a roving eye or given me cause for concern. So, what happened? She turns to the orbiter, the friend. Who did I turn to in this turbulent time? Andy, who was then in an off-on relationship, living nearby and working for a lobbying firm. He always managed to talk me down off my metaphorical ledge. 5 years ago, however, things took a different turn. The children were both at university. David was staying with his mom while his dad received end-of-life care, which meant I spent long periods alone. Andy, who was by then in an unsatisfactory long-term relationship, came over to keep me company. He went on to tell me I was gorgeous, assuring me that David had always thought so too. For the first time, I found myself flirting with him. It struck me that it was Andy who always made me laugh and feel good about myself. When I made the move to kiss him, he responded immediately. It was surprisingly exhilarating and made me feel powerful. We found our way to the guest bedroom where we ended up having sex. For once, I got off first. As curious as it sounds, when you sleep with somebody you aren't physically intimidated by, you can be yourself. I didn't care about my cellulite or my wobbly upper arms. Andy told me he'd been longing for this to happen for years. He made me feel utterly desirable, and that was an addictive feeling. Okay, talk about a horrible woman. David, her husband, is off at his mom's place, basically. And his dad was receiving end-of-life care. So the husband's not off on a dalliance or a trip with his friends. He's not off partying in the Caribbean on a business trip. The husband is with his mother, giving his father end-of-life care. and her little pudgy friend, their friend, comes over. She has a bit too much wine, which is an excuse, and she makes the move on this other guy. She made the move, not him. Now, of course, like all orbiter beta males, sneaky fuckers as we call them, of course the guy was into it. And immediately, the same night that she had a couple glasses too much wine, they sleep together. Can you imagine being this husband, this David guy who's done everything right in your life and tried to make your slightly less attractive wife feel good about everything, and you never cheat and you never stray, at least that can be said. And the first opportunity she gets while you're taking care of your family, she does it. And she blames you because you're too perfect. So now she can relax and really get into it because she's with a beta male. How do you win this? Now, in this situation, who would you rather be? Now, I know the beta male, in this case, Andy, is a pig and he's a jerk for doing this to his lifelong friend and his wife. But who's the winner? Who the guy that's Andy that gets to sneak around and just bang some woman? He never bought her a home. He never raised the kids. He doesn't have to make a 6-figure salary. He doesn't have to buy her a nice home. Occasionally he's there for her emotionally to lend a shoulder to cry on. But other than that, he gets nothing. And he still gets the grand prize. The same grand prize that David had to give everything for, which is sleeping with a woman. It's the sneaky fucker that wins. Anyway, the following morning, though, I could barely look at him. Such was my horror at my actions. How could I do this to David and our children? Andy was so tender and understanding, offering to leave and say nothing more about it. Well, of course not. He'd probably get his face pounded in by the husband. But as the days went by, I found myself thinking about Andy more and more. And as David traveled back and forth to his parents, we began our affair in earnest. So husband, because he's taking care of the family like a good man, here comes the sneaky guy. And they start having a full-blown affair because it felt good, you see. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter that my husband was good to me. It doesn't matter that he devoted his life to me and being a good dad and a good family man and shunning all the other women that wanted him. It doesn't matter because it's what I wanted in the moment, and to hell with everything else and everyone else in my life. Now you start seeing women's true nature. Way too many women do this. For the first time, my needs were being put first in the bedroom. And for once, it was me on the pedestal. Andy lavished me with praise and attention. Of course he did, because to him, you're a level up. To him, you're free sex. To him, he feels like he's getting one over on the hot, attractive guy that's always had it easy in life. Of course. But you notice, really, all she cares about is her narcissistic need being met, being filled. He still sends me gushing messages overnight for me to read when I wake up. He'll remind me of how hot I am. No man has ever said that to me before. It's such a massive boost after years of traveling in David's wake. Wrongly or rightly, I haven't felt a slither of regret. While as far as I know, David is faithful to me, our marriage has always revolved around him and his requirements in and out of the bedroom. Although we still sleep with each other, it's nothing compared to the explosive encounters with Andy. And then there's still the burden of our inequality. Part of me always fantasized that as we got older, David would take on a dreaded father's looks, portly tummy, florid complexion, and all the chat about his attractiveness would recede. Yet he's more handsome today than he was when we first met. She's jealous of him. That's what this boils down to. She's a narcissist and she's jealous of her husband getting all the attention. And now she wants attention on her. She literally wants her husband to be less attractive so that other women aren't attracted to him anymore. Do you know what is funny? If that actually happened, she'd be less attracted to him as well. She says, meanwhile, I'm succumbing to all the usual signs of aging. Wrinkles, getting kind of fat, Rubenesque figure despite our regular gym sessions. Not that I'm about to do any tweakments. That's just not me. David would tell me I don't need them anyhow. And well, now I have Andy, who's always full of compliments. Hold on.
Holy Jesus. What the fuck is that?
So meantimes, husband's hotter than ever, but she's getting wrinkly, she's getting fat, even though they do gym sessions, and the husband wouldn't make a bad comment. David wouldn't tell me I need to do them anyway because he loves me and he cares about me. But what does she say? Well, now I've got my backup. I have Andy anyway, and he compliments me all the time. Our affair is very much ongoing. We're careful about when we meet up. I've instituted a once a month rule because anymore, and I know I couldn't explain my whereabouts to David or the children. As it is, I tell David I'm out for the afternoon with my girlfriends. Instead, Andy and I book into a hotel for sex. I know David would be utterly blindsided if he ever found out, but there's no way he'd suspect me of cheating. Far from feeling guilty, I tell myself David is benefiting from my affair. I'm less reserved with him in the bedroom. I've learned to prioritize my own needs. I'm far happier. As for Andy, he's of course sworn to secrecy. We still get together once a month. Do I ever entertain thoughts of leaving David for Andy? Absolutely not. I've been firm with Andy that I'm never leaving David. I love the affluent lifestyle he provides too much, and Andy says he understands. So now Mr. Perfect, tall, good-looking, athletic, banker, father of her children, she'd never leave him because I like the lifestyle. I want my cake and eat it too. I want the great-looking guy at home that everybody's jealous that I have. I want the family. I want the affluent lifestyle, but I also want this sniveling, coward piece of shit on the side that falls for me, just laments how much he loves me, would do anything for me. And she wants it all. Now we're all 50. David still turns heads, but whenever women make the same old comments about how lucky I am, I allow myself a smug smile. After all, it's me who's having the last laugh. And I'm loving every minute of it. Of course, Emily Hilton is a pseudonym because she had to change her name because she wouldn't come out and tell the truth. Do you want to be David someday? Honest question. Do you want to be David? David who dated and married down, David who's a good father, David that works hard for a family and gives them an affluent lifestyle. And in the meantime, your wife is cackling and gleeful with zero remorse about sleeping with your lifelong friend. And that lifelong friend is doing it behind your back. Now, you can say, well, this is one-off. It doesn't happen that often. But it does. There are so many women out there that need the narcissistic drip. And their husbands just don't provide. They aren't the perfect man, so they justify why they go out and find somebody else. If a man said, I've got a great wife, she sleeps with me whenever I want, she's a great mom, she's given me wonderful children, she's drop dead gorgeous, she's made it clear that I'm the only man in her life, even though I'm not as good looking, she actually provides for the family, my friends tell her, tell me, hey, if you ever decide you don't want her, I'll take her off your hands, buddy. And if he turned around and said, you know something, she didn't meet my needs in the bedroom the way I wanted, so I'm cheating on her with her 30-year lifelong friend. That man would be called out for a public execution. They would hang him from the longest yardarm possible. But when women do it, well, it's stunning and brave. It's just her taking control of her life. It's just her deciding her own fate. Women so often will put the blame on the guy. And other women are like, yeah, my husband too. Yeah, totally. It's men bad, all times. And while women may never, ever see their responsibility in this, what does happen is men see the articles. Men hear the stories. This stuff is prevalent on social media. Men realize what's going on. And so women see this and they say, oh, well, That's a great way to look at this. I'm going to go crazy too. And the men say, women are crazy. And because this is so prolific in social media and everywhere else, men get it. Men are seeing this is a game you can't play. There's no ways to win anymore. I can be a good man, I lose. I can be the sneaky guy sleeping with some other dude's wife. Fine, I get to do that, but I never have a family. I never get married. There's just no reason to play the game anymore. And it does remind me of War Games, the movie that came out in the 1980s. And if you don't know the movie, go watch it. It is very good. But long story short, it ends up there's a computer that can control the launch codes to do devastating attacks on other countries with nukes. And in the end, it's going to launch an attack. It gets out of control. It's going to launch an attack. And the main character, I'm trying to keep this very spoiler light. It is a good movie. The main character says, okay, simulate how this is going to play out. And so the computer simulates an attack and a counterattack, and it does this for, maybe 30 seconds. And it says, well, this is interesting. What a strange game. Because no matter how you play, you can't win. I don't know what we do, but I can tell you this much. The only way to play, the only way to win is not to play. We could have learned this lesson back in the 80s if we listened to War Games. Maybe we should have paid attention a little bit more. Guys, if you like my work, make sure to check me out on betterbachelor.locals.com. Huge community of like-minded men. We're behind just a couple $1 paywall to keep us nice and tucked away so the bots don't come in and the crazy feminists leave us alone. And we can watch movies and TV episodes and do live streams of things that would definitely be yanked off YouTube for copyright infringement. It's a great community. Come on over, join us today, and I think you'll like it, and we'll see you in the next one.